Yo, BJ GADDOUR with the BJ GADDOUR podcast. And look, you know what? A lot of people probably think I don't have friends, and you're probably right. But I do have a few. And here's one of my longest friends of all time. Like, look, I'm bringing on today one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life, in and out of the gym. This guy played football at Yale. This guy is involved in product development through a variety of Gatorade products. So we're going to be talking about performance nutrition, Peri-Workout nutrition, meaning like what to take before, during, and or after your workout. He's also a 41-year-old who can still squat 400 plus pounds. I think he just recently benched 400 pounds. He played rugby. He loves to get his dick grabbed on the weekend for some reason. He's going to send me one of these photos, by the way. But like, honestly, like this guy just gets after. He also comes from a long lineage of big, burly men. They have every year what's called the Palin Olympics, where the father has retired. I think he just oversees it at this point, but he's got all these brothers who are like 235 plus, 6'2 plus, and they compete in a variety of games. So you have a competitive, adventurous, true fitness pro here that also does know a ton about marketing, business, and works with a variety of NFL, NBA professional athletes as part of what he does with Gatorade. So really excited to have him on today. Before I kick to him, he's behind the scenes right now wearing a weight vest and playing with this iron neck. Total meathead, by the way. This guy's a total meathead. His name is Drew Palin. We'll introduce him shortly. But quick housekeeping issues, all right? Number one, show sponsors. You get a free 7-day trial to the Daily BJ, TDBJ, thedailybj.com. Link in show notes here. It is the exclusive way to access all my content, past and present, ad-free. Everything I have here on YouTube, Uncle Baby's got ads all over it because it is a business, all right? You want to go ad-free, you want to get all my content, check the Daily BJ out, link in show notes. Also, the gear, all the gear you see me wear in the video, sleeves sold separately.com, manufactured in downtown LA. This is one of my favorites. The wife lover or husband lover, depending on how you like to do it, tank top. The best fit and fabric in the game. Very soft, really shows off. Again, you know, Drew didn't have chest hair for a long time. I think Drew developed chest hair at the age of 40, but Uncle Baby at this tender age, like, it's getting nice and thick. All right, look at it. I curl it up sometimes, baby curls, and it shows off the collarbone, arms, shoulders. Again, hoodies, tanks, joggers, you name it, all there. And then finally, the only supplement I take every day, Athletic Greens or AG1. It doubles as a greens powder and daily multivitamin, 75 whole food ingredients, and 8 to 12 servings of fruits and veggies, and the best tasting one I've had on the market. It's why I use it and take it. You get 5 free travel packs plus a 1-year supply of vitamin D if you go through my link. Drew Palin, one of my best friends all time here. We went to high school together, played football together. Welcome to the show, baby.
Thank you, BJ. Pumped to be here.
I can see that's some big energy right there. Look, what the hell are you wearing?
This is an Amorpho. It's a weighted vest. I just got the same question from my wife upstairs.
So what's with the bubbles? Are those little grippers?
Yeah, no, you can see these. Like it actually, like, it's really comfortable. It transforms to the body, but you can actually use it anywhere. Yeah.
So you do wear it out.
Yeah, I'll wear it. I'm adding weight, man. I'm just trying to add resistance.
So, you know, you are that guy. Like, you love to do things the hard way. And I've always loved that about you. Like, you're one of the few people, by the way, you know, people ask, like, why do you train alone? Well, because all my best training partners are behind me. Drew was one of them in high school. Drew and I used to compete on every rep of every set. A lot of injuries followed, but we also really push each other to like whole new levels. And I had a couple training partners too in college. Shout out to Brian, Cavs, Dolan, and T. Bennett at the Amherst football team. But I mean, Drew was like, it almost got to the point where like we would just like almost hate each other at times because we're so competitive. But again, we would push each other to a whole new level. Now at this age, like, you know, it isn't probably good for us to be too competitive, but you still like to tap into that, man. Like, talk to me, like, we're going to get into your origin story, but like, competition is a big part of your life. And obviously I think it has to do with your dad, your brothers, the upbringing. Like, talk to us about that.
Yeah, no, it's a huge part of it. I mean, you hit on it. I think back to those times when we trained. I mean, we were so competitive that the form didn't matter. We were trying to push this much weight, and like, knowing what we know now, I think it's smart we don't compete. I also feel bad for that machine that broke in your gym. That Australian, remember that thing? That
Yeah. So those listening, I was sent this thing called the Predator, which is like an upper body erg that is hydro powered. And of course, because Drew, here's a quick thing he knows about Drew. Drew is the definition of the bull in a china shop. Everything is extra. Like we a couple of years ago, we actually played a pickup game, but that was like one of the best pickup games I ever had. It's at the Pepperdine campus in Malibu. You're on these hills and you see the Pacific Ocean. I mean, like that was an awesome experience. But before we started, I'm like, look, Drew, we're all old, okay? So you got to like dial it back a notch. I can't be getting hurt because then the Daily BJ members won't get their workouts. But, but you are, but on the same part, like, you're one of those guys, you don't want Drew to guard you. Like you're more of a football rugby guy. Also, you do a lot of water skiing. Anytime I see this guy, like he's risking his life. He's doing white people shit, hanging from bars, climbing, but you are like, exactly. No one wants to be guarded by Drew because Drew is going to give you 110%, even when it's not necessary. But that's you.
No, I do recall that Predator. So RIP for that.
Oh, that's right. You broke it. You broke it. Of course.
I know. But I apologize. I think it's more the machine than user error. I thought I just had a little bit more power to it. But anyways, on the competitive sort of point you made, it's one of the things I think about because every Monday I start with a 5:15 a.m. workout with 3 of my brothers, and it's the hardest thing of every week because we're all competing for a belt. It looks like a world championship wrestling belt. It doesn't really mean anything. We're not winning any money, but it's pride on the line. And to beat your brothers is something that's really important. We also have other people who compete in the workout who aren't Palins, but they never have a chance to win it anyway. But it just shows that it's more than a Palin sort of award. So it's fun to really compete with them every Monday to have that belt on the line. And it actually goes to one. It's not like it goes to one consistently. So it's really competitive because it depends. Like if it's a really heavy, I have a chance to win. But if it's really cardio, Tyler does well. Ian and Bo are a little bit more balanced. So it depends on the workout that they actually prescribe that day. And then we make the strength coach, who's a former Iowa State strength coach, actually award that belt to the winner. And he hates awarding it. So it just brings us joy.
Did you have the belt on hand or does somebody else have it right now?
It's sore subject. Tyler has it right now.
I figured. See, Tyler, again, what's crazy too, because it also is like part of you're like the LeBron in the group, like you're the old man in the group. Right, and like, you're probably the strongest, but when it comes to things where there's like probably speed or, maybe those guys get the edge sometimes. I think it also probably just depends on the day, you might just have a bad old man day, but what have you been like? Take us through the Palin Olympics so they know like this is a family competition that you do annually at the lake in Economowoc, Wisconsin. What are the events? Yeah,
so it's like 10 events. I mean, we vote on them. Like we sort of bicker each year because it's not always consistent because you want to change it up a little bit. But we've also I'll give you some of the events that are sort of traditional. So like 225 bench, as many reps, like a kettlebell toss, a pro agility, a 40. We've done car pulls, but then car pulls weren't that interesting. So we did like a truck, but a truck wasn't big enough. So then we did like an RV, and an RV up the hill. We've done like, other things like we'll put in like paddle boarding with like a paddle, and then you actually have to like knock the other person off. Like, so we'll change things up. But I want to give some credence to the Palin Olympics because it sounds like it's just a family thing and it's not that competitive. We've thrown in NFL players into the Palin Olympics. Tyler Varga went to Yale. He played for the Colts. He competed in the Palin Olympics. He placed 4th. Like we have NFL players who are currently NFL players. And I'll send you a picture of Tyler Varga pulling a truck. He's very ripped, but it's just we're so competitive. We're not going to let, someone other than a Palin win this.
You know what, man? Like, and last couple of weeks or episodes too, like Ozempic keeps coming up. And again, if you need to take it and it helps you, I'm all about people getting the result and being healthy and having a great life. But this is kind of what I'm talking about when there's a physical culture in place. Like your brothers, they didn't have a choice, right? No. Because you were going to lead by example, and you didn't have a choice because your father was going to lead by example. And also your mom was an awesome athlete. Your grandma was playing tennis to almost the day she died in her 90s.
Yeah.
Your sister Holly is one of the best athletes I've ever known. Was she a tri-sport athlete at Northwestern?
Well, Well, two, like she played field hockey 4 years, then walked on the basketball team, got a scholarship. So then basketball and field hockey. So two.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, you guys, I mean, yeah, you might not, people think, oh, in shape is shredded. No, shredded that's a choice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not for everyone and whatever else. But you guys are never going to have weight problems because you guys the competition, again, this was part of the culture in your home growing up as kids. It's baked into it. And I know you're already passing it along to your kids. This is the busy dad over 41. Tell us some of your athletic accomplishments, man. Because again, like I believe it was like a 4.540. Like take us through, because you would always win the conditioning or testing day at Yale, from what I remember, right? You were like the elite dog at Yale.
Yeah, I'm looking here because I'm just laughing because I had like this picture here up in the basement that actually had the rewards, but I think my April took it down. So, don't feel bad for me here. But anyways, I don't think I was the most gifted athlete, but I do pride myself in what you're saying and working really hard, especially in college. And so in college, I was like the 3-time elite dog. So what you had to do is you had to go across things like pull-ups, dips, squat, tower clean, bench, vertical. So like some of the numbers I'm proud of is like a 4.5, 840, bench 395, squatted 500. I think had a vert of like 36. And so anyways, like you knew me in high school, and I worked hard, but I didn't have all those things, but I just never stopped. And like yourself, and I sort of modeled myself after you, I wasn't going to miss training. Like anything that could happen, fine, but I'm not going to miss this because I didn't put in that work. So anything I could do to get better, I did. And that diligence just paid off in numbers that I think someone who could have had, more sort of physical talent could have easily achieved those in a greater degree. But I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish. And then, since then, I've never stopped training since then. Like I train the same way I do now. I mean, obviously age is a little bit different, but I did in college. Like I'm still putting in the time because I'm just addicted to it. It's part of my life. It's part of the culture. And like, I think it's like yourself. Like I get my workout done first in the morning. I have 3 kids. I have a busy work life, but like, if I don't get the workout done, my day doesn't feel the same. I just feel like crap. So I'm going to start the day doing that because to me, it's a mandatory. It's not a choice.
And your beautiful wife, April, also a college soccer player at Yale. So again, like, you don't have to be with an athletic partner, but obviously like there's support and accountability baked into this. People don't realize how important that is as you get older because, like you get lazy, you get tired, and then work. This is in college where like you get to have unlimited food at the buffet style cafeteria. And then maybe you go to class, maybe you don't, a couple tests a semester, like this is real life and it's tough to kind of keep it going. Metabolism slows, you get stiff, you get tight, and then you want to keep training the exact same way you did when you were young, and your body starts to fight back on you.
Yep.
Unless you keep it going. Again, that's the thing. Like you just can't stop. And I think Drew is a real example of that. One other thing to mention as well, you've got your family is like has a tradition of being a late bloomer.
Yeah.
Where like I remember coaching your brother Ian, who was the tiniest guy on the 7th and 8th grade team, but always was the hardest hitting. And now he's the biggest guy in the family. What, like 6'4", 230, 240?
Yep, he is. Yeah.
So, but you were always, and I also remember too, like you used to get, here's a couple of things. One, nothing could compete with high school football because we played at University School Milwaukee. And we had, I think, maybe the best coach you could ever ask for, and Coach Donald Forty, just like a maker of men. It wasn't about winning. It was about building character. And I think he's had such an impact on a lot of men that have gone on to do a lot of great things in this world. And he had such humor about him. But he was that dude, like his neck was as thick as his shoulders. You'll see it on Drew right now too. Drew's got that thick pinhead. And he was a power lifter. Like he just lived it. And it would just inspire us, like to never feel bad for ourselves and to push. If this guy with arthritis and every joint in his body is still like lifting hundreds of pounds, like what's our excuse? Look at that right now. Drew's got the iron neck.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned the neck, and I don't know. I just got to take a chance to opportunity to really make sure it's not slacking. So
get some lateral flexion in.
Yeah.
By the way, stay tuned to the end because we're going to actually talk about neck training because it's something that, Drew has this device, which it's not cheap, but it's something that I actually have on my wish list at some point to add to my gym. But again, like, this is a 41-year-old who's like doing neck specialization work. He's obviously a different type of cat. But you play rugby, which we'll talk about as well, because again, like, you show me some of these videos, like, sprinting down, getting hit in the ground, and just like, I sometimes I ache watching it, but it's like you're still getting after it. And obviously that adds a lot of motivation. Those early morning workouts, sometimes like, what, I got to get this in. Otherwise I'm going to get my ass kicked out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, bro, so I'll talk a little bit about rugby, but like there's some people out there. So one of them played with my dad. His name is Steve Gramling. So he played with my dad. This is like the 1980s. He's 70 years old, and there was a sevens tournament that I played with him last summer. So this was like an old boys sevens, but Grambling is out there with guys who are like, 30s, and like they're just about like just to KO him. But he's out there because, and I asked him why. I was like, Steve, like, you're getting just killed out there. Why do you continue to play at 70 years old? He goes, it makes me feel alive. And like, I can't argue with that logic. Like, there's probably stupider things he could do than rugby, but like, I mean, this guy would just get smashed. He would get up and like he would just go again. And we were in a game there. He got the ball, so he was playing this fly half position. And I told him I was coming around, and I came around. I scored the winning try with no time left. But the fact that he's 70 and actually contribute to that play was unbelievable. And the 2 other stories I just heard really quick, like briefly when I was just playing rugby in Bermuda internationally, is like there's a couple like fathers. So it's like a grandfather, father, and son. So there's 3 generations on the field at one time. And the fact that like you could do that, like my dream, like what I want to get to, I know what you're a big LeBron fan, you want to play with Bronny, but like if there's never a chance that I could actually play in the same field as my son, like it would just bring me so much joy. That to me, that's what I want to get to. My eldest is 9, so I still have some ways that I need to go. But 9 years, if I could see myself out there with him, I mean, it would be a dream. So,
well, there's no doubt you can do it. One thing I wanted to ask you too, and I'll give my answer after yours. Which did you like better? We both played college. You played obviously at a higher level at Yale than Amherst that I did. But did you prefer college or high school football? Like all in? Like if you had to really just pick which had the most memories, or which like are you most nostalgic about? It's tough because life in both cases.
No, but it actually brings it to rugby, where my answer is high school, and the reason I rugby brings into this is because in high school you're the same thing. You never left the field, so I don't care if it was defense. Like it doesn't matter like what big program, if you're college or NFL, you're playing one way. But if you're actually in high school, like the fact that we were on defense, we were on offense, we were on every special team together, you were doing it. And if I'm playing in a rugby match, I'm actually on the field all 80 minutes. I mean, sometimes you can get subbed out, but a lot of times you're actually playing that whole thing. That to me, it's more exciting because you're making more of an impact and you're out there. So to me, that's what I value. I don't know if you feel the same in high school, but that's the difference to me. But
I was going to say the same thing. I think they call it platoon, right? Where like literally you're in the whole game. And there's something different. Like I only played defense in college. I think you were the same, or you did some special teams too, right?
Yeah, defense, special teams. Yeah.
But you don't get a feel for the game in the same way. And I played line on both sides, so I just loved dominating the guy across from me on both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
there was just something special about it. And again, like we had like sometimes 15 guys in our team. You play with 11, like a couple guys get hurt, and like it was just like and these are the guys like we literally grew up together, grade to middle school to high school. So it was a special experience. I kind of realized in college that I didn't really like football as much as I liked training or like pushing myself in the weight room. And then it wasn't the same for me in college. Like obviously injuries and stuff like that just made it even more kind of depressing, but didn't have the same relationship with my coach. Like my coach was like, our high school coach to me was like a father outside of the home. Like I think to a lot of us, and you had an amazing father, also assistant coach, but like, for me, he was the positive enforcement that I wasn't getting at home. So that, there's that. And obviously like, these lifetime friends you establish in high school, it's just not the same.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but it's also like, no, I mean, to make that point though, even clearer, it's like, I mean, people often dream, and anyways, Gatorade, we had this thing called replay where like you basically had these high schoolers who like they couldn't have their state championship because of extenuating circumstances. So we actually like 15 years later, we brought the teams back so they could play. But like the dream that I think you have or I would have is like, could you just have one more game? If I had one more game, I would want that game to be that high school game than it would be to a college game. Because I mean, there's nothing better.
So I'll say this too. The last high school game we played together, and again, this is typically how in Wisconsin our season would end. We do the best we could, and we won conference. Actually, we lost to Burlington that year, but we were in the conference championship race, made the playoffs, and then we ended up going up north and played these big ass farm boys. And again, they hated us because we were like this college preparatory school. They thought we were all rich kids, and they just loved to kick our ass. And I think we lost like 52-6, but Drew had like 24 tackles. Like we were getting our ass blown off the field, like from the first quarter. Like the first snap, the running back went 72-yard touchdown, and we knew we were in trouble. And they just dominated us every play. But Drew had like 24 tackles, I think 5 late hits. You were a late hit specialist. You like to hit people about 3 seconds after the whistle. That was like your calling card.
The reality is like, I mean, this is where I argue with people, but like there's an echo of a whistle. Like it's not like just when you hear it, there's a little time in between when it starts and then you have until the end of the echo.
I mean, that's fair enough to me. But you would also like, to be real about it, you would oftentimes like pick the smallest kid on the team. Remember that time you took out that one kid? What was it, Wayland Academy?
That was Wayland. But I actually, so yes, I don't think that was the best case where it was an onside and we were up. I mean, I think it's still like a hustle play because I was making sure that we were going to get the onside kick. But I have seen onside formations now where people actually KO the other team so that their receivers can get the ball. I mean, football, as we know, it's very different than it was when we played. It's different now. It is.
It is. Yeah. I can't imagine what it would be like now. Because again, we would only do like one like dress rehearsal or light practice a week the day before the game, but we were hitting the whole week. I mean, it was a lot of hitting, but
yeah,
you don't know, all you can do is just try to get better from generation to generation.
Yeah, you don't know. And I think it's one of those things now, and there's still so much different science out there, but it may not actually be the concussions. It actually may be the subconcussive event. So it may be the repeated hitting. It's interesting because like the time started to change because my brother, Bo, went to Yale after me. And the time he was at Yale, Dartmouth was the first team to actually not do any hitting in practice because they brought these robots. So their coach actually had these robots. So anyways, like the amount it's changed. Anyways, they're changing based to your point. They're trying to be better. And I'm not opposed to the changing, but I think it's changing really fast.
It is. Yeah. No, and that's part of the neck training you do because a strong neck, which we'll talk about towards the end of the episode here, really can, again, nothing can prevent everything, right? But it can go a long way to preventing the brain from shaking too much in the head when you've got a thick neck that just like eats it, right? So before we get into basically your role at Gatorade and you've got, I mean, you've been a part of some of my favorite products, the G0 line. I know you don't necessarily do direct work with, there you go, right there. I'm drinking all day. I wish I could do more G0, but I've got Invisalign during the day. So I can't have anything with dye. But my two go-to drinks, and also like there's been a couple additional products that we're going to be talking about as well. But you're a big basketball fan. You're a Milwaukee Bucks fan. I know I'm a traitor because I'm a Lakers fan, even though I'm from Milwaukee. What did you think about the in-season tournament? Did Gatorade have a presence there?
We have a presence with most of the teams. We have an NBA relationship as well as with the Bucks and other teams like the Pacers. But I watched it. I mean, I was hoping that we were going to have a Lakers-Bucks showdown. I thought that's what it was like meant to be. But, I mean, Pacers, Halliburton, like he's actually a Milwaukee guy, so I can't throw too much shade at him. But he took over the game. I mean, I know he played well against Lakers, but not the same way he dismantled the Bucks. But I love the in-season tournament. It made the games really exciting. I'm all for it. I love your idea of the 6th seed as another sort of prizing element to make it more competitive. So I'm all for it, but I just wish the Bucks would have done better. But I think they're going to punish the Bulls tonight because of what happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, look, the Bucks, Drew Holiday was the real deal. Like you don't have that guy now harassing the key player up and down the floor. That takes its toll over the course of the game. The Bucks will adjust. I think the Bucks are going to be, if not the Final Four in the playoffs. I think this could set up to be a Lakers Bucks final. It could also be a Denver Celtics final. It could also be a 76ers, frankly, Suns final. Like you just don't know. But there's some true powerhouses, and Giannis is a generational talent, but his weakness is obviously free throws in the fourth quarter. With Dame's going to come around. Don't worry about Dame. Like I've seen Dame be the most clutch of clutch players, and they just got to find the defense piece. That's where the Lakers are just a little bit different, man. They have some elite wing defenders that have wingspans that are 7+ feet, and they can just get these guys in 5-minute sprints at a time. So, but obviously not as good at shooting. So it's going to be interesting. But I felt like what it is missing, because again, here's what happens. If Indiana had won, everyone would have been like, this is great. But because the Lakers won, and everybody who isn't a Lakers fan hates the Lakers because they have the most championships, tied with Boston, and they have, it's the LA, it's the spotlight bullshit. But now it's kind of being delegitimized. But if you get a guaranteed, I think some people could say, well, it should only be a plan. But no. If you win this, if it really is a big deal and you won this, you should have a guaranteed playoff spot at 6th seed. Now, if you did really well, you could go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 seed. But if you win this, you should have a guaranteed spot. And what that could do for a team the rest of the season in terms of keeping guys healthy and just making smarter decisions. I don't know. I feel like that would make, as competitive as this was, I feel like that takes this to a level where people will no one's going to say this doesn't mean anything.
I agree. I think they want to up the pricing dollars too. I know they're playing with a lot of things, but I think they're trying to they may probably up it to $1 million per player next year, I bet too.
And, you were a running back, and, you kind of, when I see LeBron going up and down the floor like Marshawn Lynch right now, total fullback mode, not as fast, can't jump as high, but he's just a bowling ball. You kind of run the same way. So I know you're a Bucks fan, but you got to appreciate what he's doing at 39.
No, I appreciate it. It goes back to the comment I made before. I would love to see him play with his son if that's ever a possibility. I think there's something that could be so special about that. And I think it's Luka Doncic, I think, is another guy. I'm not saying I love him, but he uses his body pretty well. That I could, having that and that strength out there, I think that it helps. It matters. Who's
your favorite player in the league right now? An obvious answer would be Giannis.
Yeah, I can't go away from Giannis.
He's special, man.
Yeah.
Generational talent. That's why, again, I think the Bucks, they got a new coach too. They'll work their way out. Again, they just can't find their way to Miami. Miami is just like the Bucks kryptonite.
No, I don't disagree, but I do like Giannis's brother. What's his Thanasis? He's fun to watch too. He only gets a couple minutes, but he's fun.
That's good. You got the brotherly love on the staff. Keep the accountability, keep the fun.
We've had the Lopez brothers, we had the Giannis brothers. So yeah, anyways, it's kind of cool.
Well, that's where I'm like, man, the Bucks are tough because you got 2 7-footers you can rotate. Even though Brooke is the better overall player, no, you guys are going to be tough. You guys are going to be real tough. So talk to me about your time at Gatorade, kind of how it started, how it's evolved, and what you've been a part of along the way. Because all of us growing up, men of this certain age, we grew up, be like Mike. We were all drinking Gatorade in those original green sports bottles. Yep. You got one right there. What a brand. Always some of the best marketing campaigns, and obviously for those unaware, it's through PepsiCo. So you guys have the biggest market share when it comes to the sports drink space. So talk to me about it. It's so cool to see you in this role because this is such a good, use of your meathead, personality with your business acumen. You know what I mean? I'm happy for you, man. It's a real awesome role.
Yeah, no, it's been an honor to be part of this brand. So I've worked at Gatorade 12 plus years. I went to business school at Kellogg. So, from there, I've actually been at Gatorade that 12 years. But for me, if I think it's some of the most memorable things that I've done is in 2014, we visited CBF. So that's the Brazil national team. And so the Brazil national team was about to host the World Cup. And what they asked us is, how can we help them win the World Cup? And so what we actually did is, for those who don't know, Gatorade owns the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. So these are the sports scientists that we work with. So we worked with all the sports scientists. We actually sweat tested the Brazil national team. So we went there to their national training center, sweat tested them. And for those who are familiar with Brazil, there's like different temperature, different environments in that country. So what's interesting is, like, when you sweat test the players, they all have unique sort of sweat rates and sweat sodium compositions. But those are also going to change if you're in Teresópolis versus if you're in Manaus or other places in that country, or, Rio. And so what we actually did is we made GX bottles, and we made specific pods, so like Gatorade pods by player, by formulation, depending on that sweat testing. And so based on that, like, to me, we've always taken that and we've had an effect on that team. But like, we now have like stainless GX bottles where, these can take pods. We have jugs now, this jug here where you can actually pierce 64 ounces. You can pierce 2 pods here. And the other thing we've done is we want to democratize sports science. And so we have sweat patches available. So you're actually, instead of going and having a sports scientist, you can actually put this on your forearm and test your sweat rate and sweat sodium composition. So for me, it's been like a really great trip, because it's started so much innovation, and all that innovation is based on like what we're seeing working with teams. And so to me, that was really a memorable experience. The other thing is to say is, like, to me, I love, and you mentioned this, but it's like, if I can get insights from whether it's visiting NFL teams or college teams or other teams, like, I love seeing what's happening in sports science, and then seeing what they're doing from a sports nutrition standpoint, and what I can learn and what we can apply and use that for future innovation. So
I love it, man. Again, you've been around too, because Gatorade they've really diversified the product line, and they've taken a lot of consumer feedback, right? So they developed like G2, which was a lower sugar version. Mm-hmm. My favorite one recently was Gatorlight, which has a little bit of carbohydrate, but an extra surge of the 4 or 5 key electrolytes. The first summer in the desert here, man, I actually got heat exhaustion. I was in trouble, by the end of the summer, because I pushed it too hard and I didn't take dehydration too seriously. And the next summer, when I started using Gatorade after, especially workouts that were longer than 20 minutes, because it's like 120. Yeah. In 20 minutes, I can sweat more than I would an hour and a half plus in other places. But there was just something about that where I wasn't cramping up as much. Great taste. I mean, Gatorade, like, that's what everybody knows Gatorade for. It always tastes the best when you need it the most. And then there's obviously Propel, which is kind of like a, general fitness, maybe for people just doing like a shorter workout. So you guys really have done a good job of, matching the carbohydrate content and the electrolyte content, for the activity or for the actual demographic you're marketing to. I mean, but this stuff takes a long time. Like, you can't just launch this stuff. I mean, there's been things that take 3 to 5 years in terms of the life cycle of getting these to market.
Yeah, no, innovation can take a long time. It takes a long time to get right, especially from a flavor profile, ingredients, all those things, food regulatory. But I mean, I think you mentioned, like, one of the insights we've had is that, like, you're not just an athlete when you're working out at that time, like, you're an athlete 24/7. So how can we have a portfolio that supports you in any activity you do and throughout the day? And so, these are 2 of my favorite ones. These are tablets. I know you can't take them, but the G0 watermelon and the G0 lemon lime tablets are like 2 of my favorite new products we came out with this year. But also, you mentioned Gatorlight, and Gatorlight's one of my favorite products because that's like the most hydrating product we have, because it has enough carbohydrates to actually advance, absorption. So you're actually getting that absorption you need, but it also has all the electrolytes you need, and some. So like, that combination is like perfect. It's actually like really optimal. But to me, sometimes in rugby or others, it's not too late in the day, I love mixing a Gatorlight and a fast switch. So a fast switch is the new energy drink we have, which is 200 milligrams of caffeine. So for me, that's like top end amount of caffeine I want. I mean, people are different. You're probably not that sensitive to caffeine, are you?
No, I mean, like, what I do now is, because I was on the pre-workout wagon back in the day, where I would, you get to the end of the day, and I do any hard training, it's always in the afternoon, or it's my reward after I finish my work. And then I would take the pre-workout, but I just couldn't get to bed. So I have like a 10 p.m. cutoff time, but the fast switch, that would work for me, maybe a day I don't want to make coffee and I would hit it before a morning workout or that type of thing. And 200 again, like, that's a reasonable amount. That's essentially what, 2 cups of coffee. But when you're going like 300, 400, like, that's kind of an irresponsible amount of caffeine unless you're like the size of Shaq.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because it's like we've looked at the science of it, and you want to. It's similar to protein in a sense that it's like by body weight. So if you are Shaq or if you are like the Beast, if you're 400 pounds, 400 probably is about right. But 200 for most people, to your point, is the right piece. And I've been experimenting a little bit like in a pre-workout where like the fast switch powder we have is different than the RTD, but then the fast switch powder has beta-alanine. Beta-alanine has science behind it. There's also science coming on L-citrulline, as well as mixed with creatine and sometimes the sodium bicarbonate. So
let's talk about that, because obviously one of the top 5 best supplements, safest supplements out there, right? And I want you to explain to me like how you guys have put these into your products. Obviously, there's supplemental protein. It's not necessary, but a lot of people have trouble getting their protein requirements through food, and they're busy, right? Then we've got creatine, one of the most researched compounds, very important for very short bursts, like 10 to 20 seconds or less. Not really helpful to people that just walk or do, more aerobic style of exercise. But strength power athletes, people looking for that edge in the weight room, it can really help. Maybe squeeze out a couple extra reps. Caffeine, focus, energy. It can also, in some cases, can backfire for some people based on the activity, right? Like if you're trying to do a bunch of stretching and relaxation, caffeine would be the exact opposite of what you want. But if you're trying to go in and go with a really fast twitch fiber experience, really push yourself to the limit, caffeine can give you that edge, maybe a possibly, obviously increased focus. I don't know the exact percentage, but, I feel like caffeine in the right amount at the right time, especially if you cycle and you don't abuse it and you maybe like you kind of taper off a bit, then you hit it hard for a big competition, it can give you like a 10% edge, and then beta-alanine is basically like a creatine for longer duration activity. It helps buffer acidosis and helps you kind of work harder for longer. And then you said L-citrulline, which actually I know I've seen it and stuff, but like, tell us about that and tell us about how you guys have taken these proven supplements and diversified it across the product line, because it's not easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would say L-citrulline a little bit. It's emerging, but it's a nitrate, right? So it's like it's blood flow. If you think about sort of what that's happening, and then the other one is sodium bicarbonate, which if you think of that is more like it's probably better for like an endurance. But what you're doing is you're making sure that your body is not producing as much lactic acid or slowing that process down. So for us, like, I mean, you asked the question, I mean, we're looking at what's actually happening, what can we sort of measure in the lab, but what also can we measure in the field and what's causal and what's actually, doing that. And you named just a list of things that I would say are the ones you go after. There's actually, people think there's so many different supplements and things to go after, but when you look at actually what's proven, like there's one of the interesting resources, and I can send you a link after this, you could put it in your notes, but like the Australian Institute for Sports, they have like A, B, C, D. They look at sort of like sports nutrition and supplements, and they look at what's actually proven and what's not. And the ones you listed are the ones that are going to be in that group A, which is, causal science, which is protein, creatine, beta-alanine, sodium bicarbonate, L-citrulline, maybe to a degree. But it's outside of those, like, in terms of the supplement space, it's not saying it doesn't work, but there's not a lot of science. And then the creatine one, I think it's really interesting because there's these, we don't make them, but there's these creatine gummies called Swoley. I love the name. I have them. I own them. I think it's a great product, but I actually give them to my son because I don't think he has enough protein. And I also want him to have the creatine because it not only has an effect on short bursts, but also for cognitive brain function.
Interesting. And then L-citrulline, so it's kind of like a nitric oxide thing where you get a little more pump.
That's what L-citrulline is doing. Yep. And
then sodium bicarbonate is just, what are you thinking of when you put that into a product?
We're not putting it in a product. It's one of those that gives a lot of GI distress. There's products that are out there now that are actually like, I'm keeping an eye on it because it's like, basically the product that's out there now is it's a slow release because sodium bicarbonate works from a sports science standpoint, but it gives GI issues. So they're working on a slower release of it that actually And there's another company now that's actually producing like these little sodium bicarbonate pills that they use in CrossFit. If you think of CrossFit and trying not to get exhausted, like that's the point for it. But I think if we can figure it out, I think to me, there could be an area for sodium bicarbonate for our products in the future. We don't want to give the GI distress at the moment. So
yeah, no, again, you guys are impacting millions of people with your products. You got to really put them through the rigors of testing and analysis. So sodium bicarbonate is really just about boosting endurance, stamina. That's kind of the thought process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what are some things you're looking at for the future or working on now? That obviously that you can share. I don't want to take the confidential secrets, because I don't want Powerade or body armor getting in the way here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, for us, I think it goes back to, I mentioned a lot of the sort of different ingredients that have sports science behind it, but one of the insights we have is every athlete's unique. So we go back to the sweat testing, and it can be different by athlete. So personalization. So for us, how can we deliver personalization from like an equipment standpoint? When I think about it, can you write your name on the ID ring? Sure. But we're bringing sort of technology online, early next year that you could actually upload your logo. So let's say you wanted to upload your own logo. You wanted to put, what is that? The gorilla corn on here. So let's say, you want to put a gorilla corn on the bottle and do a different pattern colorway. You could do that. So that's one way. It's like self-expression on equipment. But then the other piece is like, we talked about those different ingredients, but is there a world where we could actually, BJ, you could make your own formula. So based on what you're looking for, and let's say, it could be a G0, but maybe it's a G0 without a color. And maybe it has some of these other sports science ingredients that you want, that you want to deliver. So to me, I think that's what we want to do in the future, because, maybe it's you putting in only 100 milligrams of caffeine or 50, or, because your body weight, you actually want to put in more protein, whatever it is. Like, but to me, I think that's where we're going, which is exciting.
That is, man. Like, I get a vision like of at any like competition or sport facility or field or court, and like the freestyle soda machine at Five Guys, like you literally have like, it could be Propel, it could be G2, it could be G0, it could be normal Gatorade, it could be Gator Light, and then you can like mix up. I love to mix flavors too, but then you can drop in the supplement. Like, obviously, this is going to take a lot of time, but that's some. As someone who's been using Gatorade for 41 years, that's really exciting stuff.
Well, to add to that too, it's there's also technology that we're working on to actually. So imagine you can do all that, but you could order it in an app before you get to that, let's say, vending option. But you could also scan your face. And based on that scan in your face, that could tell you your hydration level, because we're working on unlocking non-invasive hydration through a face scan. But you could also look at heart rate variability and heart rate and those other things. So imagine what you actually get. It could be in a gummy, it could be in powder or other formats, could be actually based on what's happening in your body to then bring it. Because, we could, let's say, whatever's happening that day, you could actually be more stressed. So you actually don't want to take on caffeine or do a hard workout. So that delivery of what we're delivering there could be different than, if you weren't stressed. So anyways, there's a ton of opportunity. It's not only based on what you think, we can also help you decide what's right based on a diagnostic, which could be cool too.
Yeah, dude, that's exciting stuff. What's your favorite flavor? By the way, you can give it like multiples in the sense of like your normal Gatorade flavor, your G0 flavor. Yeah. I'll give my Propel, black cherry Propel, man. Do you guys put crack in this?
It's good.
Wow.
So from a fast twitch standpoint, it's I'm sort of waffling between a strawberry, watermelon, and a mango. This G0 watermelon, I encourage anyone to try it. I think it's off the chart in terms of flavor standpoint, but there's so many different to pick from that I keep going on, but those would be my top two.
And then you personally developed and taste tested. One of my favorite G0s is the white, which is Arctic cherry. What's it called?
We have Glacier Freeze.
Yes, but the white one, the white G0, it's because that's the one I can have sometimes. It's not too dark. And by the way, like I'm going to actually check out the tablets, because I can just take them out quick and drink it and put them back in. But obviously during the workout, I don't take them out because it basically is like a mouth guard for me. But I just can't get enough. If anything, it's like I gotta like I got to not be drinking so many, but it is what it is.
Hey, we appreciate it.
I love to hydrate. Let's actually just go through like, what does Gatorade recommend generally as, like, I want to talk hydration, then I want to talk about like workout or sports nutrition around the workout. Let's start with hydration. Like, what are the guidelines or gold standards that you guys like to proliferate?
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes back to, like you don't want to be more than 2% dehydrated, because like past 2% dehydration, you're going to have a decrease in performance. And so really it comes down to measuring either in a let's say like you could weigh in pre or post training or activity, or, you're able to wear a sweat patch, your sweat rate. So like, I would say the most important thing is a weigh in and weigh out can be really easy. And then you can actually measure your sweat rate from there, or, what you can actually do is use a sweat patch to actually calculate both sodium concentration and the sweat rate. So you don't need to replace 100% of what you're losing. But if you think about it, you have to replace enough so you're not coming at that 2% dehydration sort of part. So it also depends. So like, it depends. Like if you're a workout that's like under 60 minutes, that's not in Palm Springs and not super hot, like the focus doesn't need to be as much as if you're training for multiple hours, when it really comes into play, because any sort of degradation keeps adding up.
I mean, that's really the whole thing with all this, right? You want to always stay ahead of the curve, and you want to avoid, I mean, I'll never forget like some of those LeBron games against the Spurs where they turned up the heat in the building, and he basically, like in the fourth quarter, they were up a couple possessions, and then he gets these cramps and basically he shut down the rest of the game. And obviously, like once those cramps start to happen too, because I've done these like full day shoots, and typically about midday is when, like, even if I'm, doing hydration and the electrolytes, like at some point with extreme exercise and extreme volume, it just starts happening. But once it starts happening, it's almost impossible to get out of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you almost have to wait till the next day.
Yeah, no, because well, that's true. But also a lot of what happens, we find with athletes, a lot of teams will do urine specific gravity looking at their hydration levels when they come in, but they're often dehydrated when they come in. So if you're dehydrated when you come in, it's tough to sort of compete. But like you're one who I know you well enough that you both, thing you have is like, and athletes who are really in shape, they have high sweat rates because they're sort of conditioned. So it's a great thing, but you're losing so much. But you both have a high sweat rate, and I know you're a salty sweater. So that's two things going against you, because not only do you have to replace a lot of fluid, but you also have to replace a lot of electrolytes. And sometimes, if you're working in like a session like that, you're going all day, and you're losing, I don't know, let's say, you're a guy, you could be losing 60 plus ounces an hour. Like, it's just hard to take all that back in. It
is. Yeah, no. And that's why you have to really, part of, I think what has helped, especially right now, because we have a pool that we don't heat. So it's cold. And then I got my first private starter sauna at home. It's like a phone booth, $350, man, but it steams up. And so that's one thing, again, at this age too, I like to do the easy things where I can, right? So just adding in daily thermal regulation, both in hot and cold. So yeah, actually my sweating ability has never been better, which is good because your body can cool itself. But at the same time too, it means that you've got to now put an even higher priority on replacement.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
What about, and then, the typical thing recommended is like 1 to 2 cups of, water for every 15 to 20 minutes of activity. But like, talk to us. I mean, the main electrolyte people think about is sodium. There's 4 to 5 that I see that seem to be the key mix, right? So talk to us about the electrolyte piece. Cause some people like to just supplement with just electrolyte mixes. And that's why I also like that the Gatorlyte name. Cause again, you also identified, okay, we got to give some options for just a bigger dose of these for certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, think of like the hyperhydration. So Gatorade is a product like magnesium, potassium, sodium, like those are the main ones. But so it is the mix. Sodium by far is the most important. But like if you're in a world where you're depleting so many electrolytes, it's only going to be beneficial to have some of the others. But there is like mixed sort of pieces on. Like, I think it really goes down to knowing yourself. Like, if you really are a salty sweater, you really got to be cognizant of electrolytes. But if you're not, I think some companies are sort of pushing that too far now. But I think it all comes down to knowing yourself and knowing where you react to best. So,
Oh, for sure. Again, I think part of the, there's always a good and a bad with awareness of things. And obviously, in the 90s in particular, in terms of how I remember it, like the real enemies were like fat and salt. And I think a lot of people maybe don't realize, again, this is the most important electrolyte in your body. Like if you're lacking salt on a daily basis and you want to be doing big things with your body, it's going to be tough. So people are almost like scared of salt. We've been like conditioned to be scared of salt. And again, people that have medical issues, we're not talking about you. You got to listen to your doctor. But like, do you deal with that a lot in terms of like salt phobia and like getting people to understand like this? Not if you're a healthy individual and you're very active and you sweat a lot, especially if you're a salty sweater. And by the way, the way to find out is just if you have a dog, what happens when you come back to the gym? They're licking you like crazy. They love you. You're like a salt popsicle.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's right. I mean, there's also misnomers. I mean, I'd also take sugar as one. So it's like, if you're playing basketball and you want to be the best basketball player you are, like, don't be afraid of sugar. Like, we're not telling you like when you're on the couch to drink, that sort of that product. But like, if you're looking to actually maximize your performance in something that's like 2 hours and you're going, you need 30, 60 grams of carbohydrates. So I would say that for sugar, but then also for sodium, like, yes, in like a non-athletic state, but if you're losing so much sodium, your body's going to need to replace that, because if you look at what happens, if you only replace water, your body can get out of whack, in that way too. So it all comes down to the person and the context.
And that's what's important too, is you got to experiment, with more like regular workouts and routines, and then lock in a formula for yourself that you just do in every competition or high stakes environment, right? You never want to play around with this, for the first time before a big competition. Like, you got to know how your body reacts to X amount of caffeine. Like sometimes if I'm going to a business meeting where I'm meeting someone new, too much caffeine could be a problem, right? My energy might put them off. You have to know how you respond to these things through trial and error, just like in the gym. You don't know how you're going to respond to certain styles of exercise unless you try. I'm glad you mentioned the sugar thing, because again, where people get in trouble with sports drinks, it's like their beverage of choice, and they work at a desk and they don't do any activities, right? And that's where, like, okay, you shouldn't be drinking regular Gatorade if you don't exercise. And if people think about it, 1 hour of hard exercise, most people might like metabolize, maybe it could be anywhere from 50 to 100 grams of glycogen, the stored sugar in your muscles, based on body size, intensity, all that, right? Which would be, potentially 1 or 2 regular Gatorades. You're playing 2 or 3 hours of pickup basketball. And honestly, like, one of the mistakes I've made in the past, because I got really afraid of sugar because I was a fat kid and I thought it was because all the bread and the sodas and the sports drinks. I probably should have been having regular Gatorade when I'm doing these all-day shoots, because I'm just going through so much sugar. Again, sugar you use at high intensities. So if you're doing a lot of high-intensity exercise, you do need to replace the sugar. But on a day where you're not very active, maybe that's when you choose a G2 or a Propel or a G0, where, again, there's no need to replace the sugar, but you still want to get the electrolytes in.
Yep, that's right.
So that's definitely one thing to consider. But again, like, I know we used to do this as teens too. We would just, like, Gatorade was my beverage of choice, which is great. But I was doing too much sitting on the couch, not enough conditioning, So again, you just got to understand nothing's bad as long as it's natural. It's just about dosing, activity level, all these things. So really the biggest thing too is people will just not drink enough regular water. The enhanced taste of the Gatorade product line really does help guarantee less dehydration, better performances. Again, you do enjoy the taste, and taste is, water just doesn't taste as good sometimes when you're dehydrated. So again, still drink water. But I've heard many people say too, like, even throw a pinch of salt in it if you need to, just because you'll get better absorption.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, like the taste thing, but it's like, if you drink a Gatorade and you drink that, which has high sodium, like when you're inactive versus when you're active, like, see how much better it tastes when you're active, because your body knows it needs it at that point. So
exactly,
also a signal. So,
and again, it's also helping with absorption. People that a lot of that start hydrating, like they want to get into it. Like a lot of people will start drinking a lot of water for the new year, a new year resolution, right? But if it's in particular, if it's like not good water and it has no salt to it or minerals in it, you'll literally just be pissing it out. So the electrolytes do help you absorb the water. So that's just something to consider as well. Let's talk. The term is peri-workout nutrition. That means pre, mid, post. What are right now the gold standards? And I know it depends on the activity, right? But what are you guys, what are your thoughts with regards to like what is good peri-workout nutrition? I know you guys have now added some protein to some of the products, and/or amino acids, I believe. But take me through that, because again, this is your space.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think I'd be so context dependent as well, but like generally, if we're thinking of doing like a lifting workout, go back to the product fast switch. So the fast switch, the powder, it's going to have the caffeine, it's going to have beta alanine. So like some ingredients that are really going to help in a pre standpoint, pre/like right during. During really depends on the length of the workout, and we talked about hydration, so I don't think we need to drain that one. And then post, I would sort of combine post and all day. So you think about like creatine, that's like an all day thing. You could put it in your pre, you could put it in your post. Doesn't matter. It just needs to be during the day. And then protein's the same way, where like I often like to get it right after the workout, but your body actually has a little bit longer window than you may think to be able to do that. But I think what people don't do with protein enough is they often don't take enough. And so it's like, you might as well take the chances when you can, and your body can absorb it to really hit that goal towards your body weight there. So that's in a nutshell. And
then again, the protein is a funny thing, right? Because, I remember too, like when I first started reading all the muscle mags or like, the dark webs of the internet back in the day, early 2000s, a lot of like these hardcore bodybuilders are like, you got to have it during the workout because it actually helps minimize muscle breakdown while you're breaking down the muscle. But, ultimately, in terms of timing, I think what the research has shown, like it really only matters for like Olympian/world-class athletes that are trying to get like, they're on the smallest of margins of improvement that can make a difference, like a 1/10 of a second, in a sprint, right? Or an inch in a shot put, right? For the average person, it's just about daily intake mainly, right? And also like the type of protein, right? Whey is going to absorb the fastest. Casein is known for being very slow. A lot of people position it like whey is like the anabolic protein, and casein is like the anti-catabolic, meaning it's more about preventing muscle breakdown or catabolism. But sometimes people like to have a good mix of the two. Yeah. People call casein the nighttime protein before bed, whey the breakfast protein. So but some people can't handle dairy, so you got to go plant. So that's why like. Do you guys have any stuff right now with just like pure amino acids where there isn't a dairy issue for people, or is that not?
We have Evolve, which is a plant-based protein. So we do have that. And then we do have like some muscle milk aminos. But no, I'm tracking to what you're saying in terms of like not needing it during the workout. Casein's interesting as well, where like to your point at nighttime, like you could take a bolus of like 40 grams because it's slower releasing protein, so your body can actually take that in over the night really well. So there's one of my favorite like muscle milk products was I actually took it last night. It's like Sleeping Giant, but it's a casein product, but also has like melatonin and other things. So like it actually, like what I do is I make it in like a cup like this. It's like a hot chocolate, so it's almost like a hot chocolate protein before bed that has the right amount of casein and helps you go to sleep as well. It's also, it's funny, it has tryptophan in it, which is the same thing you get tired of when you eat a lot of turkey.
Oh yeah, that just happened to all of us last month. But yeah, that's one thing to know too. Again, I'll get questions on this. It's common. Like again, you're not an idiot if you have to ask it, because we've been conditioned to like think doing anything before bed is bad for you. The thing about taking something like casein before bed, like having a big burger and fries before bed, is bad for you because it's going to be so hard to digest. You're probably going to get acid reflux, and you're going to get horizontal. Bad scenario. Now, something like a powder is very easy to digest, even though it's slow digesting. It's giving you a steady supply of amino acids over the course of the night. And again, obviously, I've never been affected by sleep having protein only before bed. It's really like a protein, fat, carb bomb before bed is what can really throw people off. And especially if it's heavy, solid food that just is tough to digest. Just something to note for those listening, because again, people will think it's like the worst thing in the world. I'm getting fat because I have a scoop of protein before bed. That's not the problem. So let me ask you this. You're a busy dad. Obviously you work out first in the morning. We see the home gym. Like you got everything in there. You got dumbbells. The guy's got a neck training device. Okay. You got a power rack, I think, behind camera, right? What tips do you have for the busy dad? Like, to find a way to kind of keep fitting it in. And again, obviously you pushed it to the limit. Not everybody can or wants to, but what are some general tips that come to mind in terms of like how you've been able to, stay the course? And I'm sure the kids themselves really provide the motivation too.
Yeah, I think it's little things. It's like, it's just like, you're going to have things come up. So you mentioned I like to do it first thing in the morning because you can control that. Because like after that happens, like the day can become chaos because there can always surprises. But like if it's 5 or 6, there's probably not that many surprises, or hopefully there's not any, and you can sort of get that training. So it's scheduling it. But little things like, I'll put my sort of workout shoes out. I'll put my, shorts out. I'll put the socks out. So like if you look at sort of behavior change, once you put, like one of the things they do is like the hardest thing to do is to put the shoes on to go for a run. And you only need to put the shoes on, but like you're going to go for a run if you have those shoes on. So it's like, how do you do those little things that are going to set you up for success? And I also think it's modulating training. So it's not to say like I don't miss training, but it's not to say I don't change my training based on what's going on. If there's an injury or if I got sick or whatever it is, like I'll change it, but I'm still going to get training in that day because it's still important to me. And I think that tracks. There's little things too, like I'll use different programs and, they have like, they'll go on sort of runs and like streaks and like those little things, they help. Like it's, you sort of select it, you're on a streak, you don't want to break it. You mentioned the kids, they'll be down here with me. I'll use them as sort of apparatuses if need be, so they can fun and see it and see the culture and do those parts, like whether it's bands or anything else, they love doing it with me. So
I do really like, I'm going to highlight setting up, like I've been doing it lately too, because basically my ticket to bed, besides all the things we need to do now at 41, Rogaine on the top of my crown. I got a floss. I use the water pick, every year, like the night routine just gets longer as you get older. But I make sure that all the dishes are done, so I don't have to do it when I wake up in the morning. And then the coffee thing's all cleaned out, so all I got to do is turn on the coffee. And then my sauna's set up, my towels are ready. So again, like instead of having like 20 things to do to start the day that overwhelm you, especially if you had a bad night's sleep, you can just ease in to the routine that just sets you for the rest of the day. So setting out the workout clothes, basically maybe having the items you need to make your morning shake just ready to go. Obviously still refrigerated if needed, but like these are the small things that seem stupid to mention, but in terms of how the brain works, just seeing these things, right? Like the reason I'm on the bar all the time, I see this pull-up bar coming into the office, out of the office. I can see it any room I'm in this house. And it's just a reminder, okay, get on the bar.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned that too, and like a pre-workout. Not saying everyone needs a pre-workout, but like if I know I have a really hard workout coming out, I'm gonna make that pre-workout that night. I'm gonna put it in the fridge and I'm gonna drink it. Once you start drinking that, like game on. So, anyways, I think and the dishes, it goes back to I actually do all the dishes in the house, but I make sure that is all done that night before, so I'm not even sort of debating doing that in the morning. So
exactly, and then you start doing that, and you get in a bad mood, and it's like, now I got to do this. So again, you want to front load your efforts. I think that's the key to productivity earlier in the day. But I also think you want to backload as much of like the busy, like nuisance stuff, so that in the morning you don't have to deal with it. And you're more likely to stay on schedule. There was another piece there that I wanted to unpack. Again, this always happens at this time in the podcast because I do these in the afternoon sometimes. And again, I'm 41 now, so I just forget. What was it? It was a really important point to what you said about the habit side of it. Okay, maybe I'll remember. But let's get to rugby. Okay, this, like, you think football's tough. You guys wear little padded headgear, but like this is man on man.
Yeah, it's hey, I love the sport. The physicality and contact, I love it. So there's two different types of rugby that I play. Both is 7, so it's 7-on-7, really fast, a lot of scoring. There's 15s, which is 15 on 15, 40-minute halves. So I play something in both sets. It's more like a back, so think of like a running back in football. But I love it, and the reason, going back to like we talked about high school football, is that I get to run the ball, but I also get to be a linebacker. So I get to be like a running back and linebacker throughout the whole 80 minutes or throughout the 14 minutes of that. And so I fell in love with the sport since playing football. So like Yale senior spring, I played rugby there after football ended, and I played ever since. And the last 3 years, it's been fun because I've played on the U.S. team over 33. So I've gone to Bermuda to play teams like the British Lions, Argentina, France, Italy. So it's been a blast to be able to wear the country's colors and play for the team out there. So I can't say enough. At some point, I'm sure it's going to end, but this one, I think like 6 weeks ago, was probably an interesting sort of story because I had 8 stitches here, like near my eye. And before I got this stitched up, because it was like taped up and I still played the game, I went to my eldest son's soccer game because I didn't want to miss the end of his soccer game. And I show up with like blood all down my face. And I think my wife was wondering what was going on. The parents were a little bit concerned, but I saw him finish the game. Then I went to the ER and was able to get stitched up. And hopefully now you can't even notice. Well,
by the way, I remember what I wanted to say, which was I've never not worked out after taking pre-workout. That's the biggest advantage of pre-workout is if you take it, you will exercise. No one sits on pre-workout. Just be careful how late in the day you take it. But talk to me about like what does your rugby training look like? I know you still do the big lifts, the bench, the squat. You do a lot of body weight stuff too. But like, what is it? What does it look like, kind of in season versus off season for you in terms of how you're training to actually excel on the rugby field?
Yeah, I mean, my lifting will probably be pretty consistent. Like it's the big core lifts you're talking about, as well as auxiliaries and, a lot of things that you do that I follow as well. But I think the thing that I need to add when I'm closer to season versus not is you can't just go from 0 to sprint. So to me, what I need to do is I need to get out there on like turf or grass field and just sprint. And that's one of the hardest things to do by yourself, I think, is sprint. And also not even sprint. It's not even that hard, but like the conditioning. So what I'll do is I'll add things like a Bronco. So a Bronco it's actually going 60 meters back, 40 meters back, 20 meters back, and doing that 5 times in a row. So like, let's say takes me, 5 some minutes, but that's a 5. Think about it. It's like 3 different 300s you're doing. You're not stopping as much, but I'll also do the 300s. If you remember, we did those in high school just to make sure that I have some conditioning and I have some sprinting. And to me, I need a game or I need something, a tournament, to be able to get in the right mindset to get out there to do that. But I've been successful, like building up the conditioning by doing that. So I only do it like a couple times a week, but that, and I'll also do like band assisted things in there as well. Remember Dave, the band man, we can't forget him. But if you think of like the hills, or I'll bring a brother out to sort of make sure that I have some resistance as well. So that's really what I add.
And the other, by the way, the workout you just described, like that 5 minutes, that's a day. You can call it quits after. The exhaustion, both anaerobically and aerobically, you get from something like that. Some of the worst memories of my life were the 300-yard shuttle. And it's not the first one, it's the second one. You got to come back for in a couple minutes. This is a sport where you're doing a lot of sprinting, especially like the 7s, right? Where it's shorter, but like you literally are almost sprinting the whole. So it probably changes. You'd probably do more aerobic stuff for the 15s versus the 7s, right?
Yeah. It depends what the position you're in the 15s, but 7s is like, it's anaerobic, but it's also aerobic in a sense because you also got to recover. But like, I've never been more tired in my life than there's like championship games that will, instead of sevens, they'll pay 10-minute halves. And so they'll be like, they no longer do it because too many people got injured in the last 3 minutes. But like the amount you're sprinting, because it's the same size field and you're just sprinting and tackling. So think of like wrestling and sprinting being combined for a sport. It's just exhausting.
You know, I've seen you play on the lakefront in Milwaukee, man, and just like big dudes, like some of the best legs in the game, rugby players, man. They obviously take their leg training very seriously, and you have to. Here's part of the thing too is, you know, I shit on a lot of barbell stuff because I know the average person who isn't you, by the way, you're different. You've got, I mean, you've been rarely injured. Like my joints, frankly, can't hold up to that style of training. That's been my experience, right? This is what, like, there's you try things and you see what works best for you. And for me, you know, the barbell stuff did more bad than good for my body. But you've got a different body. You obviously have like much stronger knees. Like you've always had that crazy VMO muscle. Like, by the way, guys listening, like the VMO is maybe one of the most important muscles on the human body. People that have a big VMO, they rarely have knee issues. And people that have small ones, they almost always have knee issues. It matters. It's all about the patella and the tracking of the patella and the kneecap. But all the Palins, you guys are just big, sturdy dudes. And like you haven't had many injuries at all, have you?
I mean, knock on wood, I haven't. I mean, I broke my back in college. I was misdiagnosed, and I didn't miss a practice. But you know, like, and I've had a lot of stitches and cuts and things like that. But those are the ones I want because, like, your body heals those, and I've learned your face is a fast healer in terms of other things. So I've been lucky. I've also like adapted, like, so like little things like those squat wedges you talk about, or you know, I squatted this morning, but I used my sort of like weightlifting shoes that have a little bit of a heel. So think of like a built-in squat wedge. Mm-hmm. So if I didn't use that, I probably would feel it on my knees and I probably wouldn't get the right thing. But I also, like, unlike in high school, I've listened to my body. I've made those adjustments. I'll also send, like, I know some really well-known strength coaches at Wisconsin or like former one at Florida State or others. And I'll send them videos of like what I'm doing to make sure I have the right form. Because in the end, that's what's going to make a difference in the long term, especially as you do this over and over again. So I always will be a bonehead, but maybe not as much as I was in high school. And I've learned to adapt a little bit. So,
well, you're a big dude. What are you, about 220, 225?
Probably 229.
Oh, I see. You're on the higher side now. Wow. Uncle Babe. I mean, that you'll be tougher to play in the post the next pickup basketball game. But 6'2", you're a big, thick dude.
6'2", 229. But I'm just laughing because I have this like new scale. It's a smart scale. Does like body fat and everything else. But like I had my brother Tyler weigh on it. He's 6'4", but like it now, I was like 231 and then he's like 229, but now I'm 229. So the scale actually recognizes me as Tyler. And then he's all pissed because like he's saying I'm him and he thinks I'm messing up the metrics. But anyways, we're all around the same weight. So like my brother Bo's getting married this June, and like he's on this whole thing to get diced for the wedding, which I don't know like if that's cool or not, but probably is. But we all want to be the same weight at the wedding. We all want to be like 225, but then like we're worried like my sister, like how she's gonna get there. So
I mean, she'll find a way if she wants to.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I won't. Yeah.
What I was going to ask you is, now I'm forgetting again. Unbelievable. Is this guy a professional? I'll keep it moving, but that's what I wanted to say too. Like, what's the brand of the Smart Scale? I'm just curious because I was thinking about getting one last year around this time as maybe an accountability piece for me, especially if it had a good like stable body fat percent. But I just didn't know of any brands.
Yeah, I mean, I can send you. It's Withings. So Withings is like a French company. I was at CS last year, so the Consumer Electronics Show. I saw it there. I thought it was pretty good. So what it does is it has a handle, and so it's bioimpedance is the way it's doing. It's actually doing segmented body fat. I actually haven't found it to be that accurate and interesting. I got it as sort of an accountability thing too, I think the scale is really accurate. How accurate sort of the bioimpedance is, I'm not convinced. It's also pretty expensive, but like if you think of bioimpedance versus like a bod pod or a DEXA or even calipers, it's the least accurate. But I've seen it change like body fat depending on who's weighing in between like somewhere like 12%, some as high as like 30. So it's just I think it depends on a lot. So net of it is I think it's okay.
And by the way, like people listening too, when you're Drew's size, when you're my size, bodyweight exercise, I mean, you're basically like you're throwing around 245s on each side with a barbell, essentially, so, you don't really need much more than if you're a big guy, your body weight to build muscle and strength. Now, obviously adding weights on top of that, that's the gold standard. It always has been. No matter what I've said, nothing gets you faster results than heavy weight training. I saw with my body. The thing is, if you're not willing to do the stuff before and after the workout, and you're not willing to put your ego to the side, there's also bigger risk. It's higher stakes, bigger return, possible more risk. But if you are a smaller individual and you're light, that's when, I'm not saying body weight, I think, is always the foundation. That's when I think weight training probably makes more sense for you, especially if you're a hard gainer and/or you want to, really put on some size.
I think I would say really quick, though, you talk about injuries, is the other thing I figured out is I have a really good PT, like physiotherapist in the city, who's I'll call him a savant. So like he's able to look at your body and say, okay, like, if I came in with my so basically like it was like my elbow, like ulnar, like this area right here was like sore, and I was like, all right, can you check this out? And he's like, he released it in my neck, like. So those that can understand your body really well, and I had Achilles issues, but the Achilles issues was because I had sort of tight hip flexors. So anyways, like if you can find the right like physical therapist, that also can save you a ton of injuries, because they can, like, I don't want to go to someone who can show me how to stop the pain. I want to know how to stop the pain from ever happening. So that to me has also been really, really helpful for me. Which so, you kind of do to yourself. You know your body well enough.
But to that point too, like if you're not willing to film yourself doing key exercises that are part of your program, then you have to have someone else take a look at you. Because again, like I over the pandemic, I started doing some, FaceTimes and distance coaching and stuff like that. And I had people that swore they were doing, like for the get up, right? People think their arms overhead, and they send me a video and it's like this. It's supposed to be right here, but it's right here. So you don't realize like the importance of having a professional eye on what you do. Now, if you can't afford it, film yourself. Okay. And then you'll see like what you want to look for when you film yourself. You want to see beautiful angles. You want to see 90-degree angles in your body. You know what I mean? It should look pretty. If it doesn't look pretty, it's probably not right. But again, that's part of the thing is I film myself constantly for the work I do, but I've always seen things I can fix. 10, 20 years later, now I do things perfectly. And there's still some things I'm working on, but for injuries and stuff like that. But had I not done that, I would definitely need a professional eye on my body, because, there's just no way you can do it by yourself. Let's close it out with the iron neck. Both, by the way, none of us, we're not affiliated. We get no money for this, but, it's interesting because I'll do my version of it with a band. I actually did, what's crazy? I did a video of this where I was just basically doing like neck planks where you attach it, and I have it anchored to the door here through a band utility strap. And because, boxing and MMA have like exploded recently. Like, and again, in combat, it's very important to have any combat sport, football, rugby, MMA, wrestling, look at this guy, he's pumping up his neck. Your neck is thicker than mine, I have to say. Maybe I got to do some more neck work. You got to hook me up with iron neck. Talk to me about this, because again, like, don't discount this as just a neck. No one, by the way, no one's come to me and like, hey, BJ, can you grow my neck? I've never gotten that email, except from you. But the thing is, when you attach a band to your head, you're now doing like some extreme core training. You're taking that lever, like if you're using a cable machine and you're at shoulder level versus head level, totally different stimulus, much harder on the spine to stabilize. So look at that. It's omnidirectional, right? It just swivels.
Yeah, it swivels.
So tell me, what's your routine? What are you doing with this device?
Well, I mean, I like it. So I think I mentioned this before. I met the founder, and it's all about like concussion, reducing like the ability, because like your neck, and I actually got it because with rugby, you're in like a lot of these scrums. So your neck is in there, and I got a really sore neck. And I'm like, I actually went to a chiropractor. I had a bad experience with a chiropractor. So I was like, I don't want to do this again. So I got the iron neck to see if I could not run into that. And it's been awesome. I mean, the downside is my wife hates the larger neck, but there is a larger neck. April has mentioned to me that my neck was much smaller in college, even when I was playing college football, and when I met her. But then, and I've like, it's one of those things that like, for those who know, it's not like when you get bigger or when your body changes, it's not the women that notice, it's always the men. But when I got to say, like when I go up into a room and when someone says like, you got big traps or has your neck grown? I mean, there's not a better compliment. So to me, I think that is one of the things that it's done, but it's not the compliments. It's actually how I've felt in terms of, in rugby, I haven't had a sore neck, and I think I've been able to been in some contact situations that could have been more dangerous without it. So anyways, I'm a big fan. What I was just like, I actually I have 40 pounds of resistance that I've been working against there. And you can oscillate it. You can do different exercises. It's one of the things that, I posted about on Instagram with some music. Seems to be a fan favorite. People always ask, what is it? And they have questions. But I've come to believe that sometimes the more ridiculous an exercise is, the better. Like the more people hate it, the better it probably is. And people hate neck things.
And look, there's two areas of the body that if they're compromised, your life is miserable. It's your lumbar spine, lower back, and your cervical spine, your neck. So people understand the importance of, planks for, planks, bridges, rotational core work to stabilize the lower back. But man, like we're like this all day.
Yeah.
And so when you think about the neck, I did a video with Tony Jeffries. He's the leading boxing educator on YouTube. He has millions of subscribers, just hit 2 million. And he asked me to make a video for neck training for boxers. And the thing is, I couldn't use the iron neck. So what I recommended was starting point is just classic, manual resistance isometric. So what can you do with your neck? You can flex, you can extend, you can laterally flex, you can rotate, right? So you start by basically applying with your hands manual resistance. You can also wrap a towel and do it that way too. In high school, we had the 4-way neck, which was the worst. Dude, it was so unsanitary. All these sweaty, disgusting, pimpled teenagers putting their face, and we'd be like going fast, high rep speed. Because you see a lot of boxers like laying off the edge of a ring and doing fast things. Again, this is your neck, people. Everything starts first with stabilization. So all you got to do is you can get the iron neck, or you can take a band and wrap it around your head with a hat. It's more comfortable that way. Or just put a towel between the band and your head and just do standing planks, facing sideways, facing away, facing forward, and you get a complete 4-way isometric net workout. Now, you could look at adding movement to it, but the thing is, that's when you want to probably get the iron neck. And again, I would go more band resistance than with weight, because dead weight on the neck, I just think that's too risky for the average person. Bands are just so much more joint friendly. But again, like it'll look stupid. It does make for a great thumbnail, by the way. The thumbnail for this video is going to be you and that device, because you look like you need some help. It's going to get people to click. I know that. But the reality is, like, just by doing it, you're going to get an intense abdominal workout, because again, it's a lengthened lever. It's like, think about how much harder a plank would be for you if you were 7 feet versus 6 feet. I'm not saying that's the distance, but a longer lever, greater stabilization requirements. So it's definitely something to check out. It's on my wish list, and maybe you can hook me up with the inventor. I'll get him on the show. Yeah,
no, it's been I really enjoy it as much as when April saw it the day it came in and hated it, but I've loved it ever since. So,
and here's the reality too. Like you can't wear dress clothes, but you don't. So it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But you can't do any button ups.
No, I can't. That's been actually one of the biggest benefits of it. So
you legit have a pinhead. Like the neck is outside of the ears, or it's close. This is the dream when we were young. You've achieved it.
I think it actually, like, I don't do a lot of trap work, but I think people think my traps are bigger because my neck is bigger.
Well, and then you used to go with that big high collar too. I mean, it's intimidating when we get that. What is it called? The cowboy?
Cowboy collar. Yeah.
Cowboy collar. And then, yeah. So here, let's close us out with the most embarrassing thing that's safe for the audience about me that you can share. I'll give you one.
Me? I'm going?
Yeah, I'll let you. You're the guest on the show. You've known me for about as long as anyone in this world. Feel free to share the most embarrassing thing you know about me that they probably don't.
I mean, I don't know that this is that embarrassing because you've literally told the story, but the fact that like you did the bodybuilding and I think like I know you ate like 5 different meals like post the competition, but the fact that you were able to eat that whole cake, I still think about that cake that you ate.
Okay, so you're talking about the 35 pounds I gained in 5 days.
Yeah, but didn't you eat a chocolate cake within that?
No, I ate a whole custard cake from Culver's.
Yeah.
I also ate a whole carrot cake from Cheesecake Factory. Dude, I went on. This was one of the. I would go on record saying in the history of man, this was an all-time binge. For 16 weeks, I just had protein, maybe some olive oil, and then just green vegetables. And I got, at the time, it was the best shape of my life. Wore a Speedo on stage. That was probably the most embarrassing thing. But then I was so depleted and deprived. And the next 5 days, bro, like I literally went from the best shape of my life to being in worse shape than before I started the 16-week cut. Abs were gone, but I will say, like the next day, my arms were fucking huge from all the sugar in the water. But that is embarrassing. I thought you were going to go to when your sister beat me at arm wrestling at a birthday party.
No, I could have, but yeah.
But to my credit, his sister has always been one of the strongest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, she gave me a lot of trouble growing up, but she's an athlete for sure.
So I know you're on various socials, but you don't have to share that. Any closing? Well, first of all, you got to check out the Gatorade product line. Some awesome advancements in the last several years. And anything you want to leave us with, closing thoughts, stuff to look out for? Whether it's a Gatorade or just what you've got going on yourself.
No, I mean, the only thing I would say is you guys. I mean, you're listening to BJ here. He's a real one. He's the guy I look up to. I'm very knowledgeable in fitness, but you couldn't be with a better person than what he's doing and what his mission is. So that's all I got to say.
I appreciate that, man. This was a pleasure to have you on. At some point, we got to get all the brothers on. I don't know if we can fit all of you in one screen. There's so much mass, but this was a pleasure just to get you to talk. Again, this is one of the most common questions we get about supplementation, stuff around the workouts. I think you guys will really enjoy. But again, when I think of Drew, I just think about, again, he will go through a wall. But this is the type of guy that you like. This is the guy you want to play with. You want to be in the trenches with, whether it be. That's what's so funny now, because now you're in a corporate setting. But the thing is, an athlete is an athlete no matter where they are. They bring that same mentality. They rise to the occasion. They're red light performers. And dude, it's been a pleasure to see you build such a great career. Still though, doing what you love. Like, this is really like, sure, there's things you probably don't want to do at your job. There's things I don't want to do at my job. I got to go edit this video for a couple hours when we're done. But I had an awesome time talking to a friend about fitness and getting older. So, pros and cons to all of it. But at the end of the day, if you have a passion for it, it really helps you stay the course.
Yep. Well said.
All right, guys. Thank you so much to Drew. Look, we just gave you 90 minutes of our time. So can you give us 1 second and click a 5-star? And if you give us 10 seconds and say 5-star BJ Podcast good, I'm asking for 3 words. Just put 3 words. I don't need you to tell me, which episodes you like or how great the podcast is. I already know that. Just say BJ Podcast Good. It helps us get out there to more good people like you, and we appreciate you listening. Lots of great episodes coming through, and be sure to check out the Gatorade products. There was a couple things I didn't even know about that is out, and I cannot wait for the Gatorade Freestyle fountain machine, bro. Like this would be like, I'll get one for my house.
Oh, that sweet chantilly. Corner piece.